I know it's hard to believe, but August is almost over. We are getting into the final quarter of the year. Now is the time for you to get your financial shit together. Get it together for the end of this year, and get it together for the beginning of next year so that you don't even have to think about it through 2023. Do this by hiring Molly Morris at m3virtualaccounting.com. I hired her last year, and I truly wish I had done it years ago. Have a free consultation and see if she can help you at m3virtualaccounting.com. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering Ted Lasso, Season 1, Episode 6, Two Aces. In this episode, Jamie gets traded? And I didn't know this was like how that could even work. Is this a thing in with US teams also? Can you just get given away in like the middle of a season? I didn't think that was like allowed.
You can be traded. This is not a trade though. Jamie is recalled. It's a different situation. But this
Welcome to Unspoiled.
Fuck. I did it again! What the fuck?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I am Rashawn, and I'm really bad at this for some reason. Oh, why do I keep doing this?
You're just really excited. You just really want to talk about it. It's good. It's a good thing. It's not good. It's not a good thing, but it leads to good things, so that's fine.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's fucking, I don't know you guys. I don't know what the fuck.
Oh, man. For everybody out there, today is the first day of September. So first thing I want to do is say happy fall, y'all. And if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, you have something going on over there too, I'm sure. Is it spring? I don't know how that works.
You have something going on over there.
Down there.
Everything's upside down over there. You can't expect us to understand.
I basically am just like, what's the opposite transitional period? Because I see fall and spring as like the in-between months.
Right, yeah.
To the main season months. I don't know why they're months, but...
Well, this is your jam. This is like your time to shine.
I'm so excited.
This is where I start to shrink into myself and I won't, appear again till the springtime.
This is how we keep each other alive, Rashawn. We just hold on with the power of each of our, energy of the season. And we go, no, you're going to make it through. I'm holding you by the lapels in this scenario.
Which is really the only way to hold me, quite frankly. Today is our 10-year Facebook anniversary.
Yes! I didn't remember that we became Facebook friends on the first day of September, which is a holiday for me already.
Feels right?
Yeah.
I can't remember how long we were friendly at work before we made the plunge to Facebook friends. I don't know either. I don't think it took very long though. I think it was pretty quick.
I think it might have been once I told you I was leaving. And you were like, "Oh, it's saved to friends."
Oh
because
no,
you weren't at my workplace.
It was not. It was before that. It was way before. It was way before you left because we were Facebook friends, and maybe we've talked about this on a podcast. We were Facebook friends, and then you and Jared did Google circles or whatever. Remember that? Google.
Right. And I mocked you.
Right. And I ended up joining your fucking circle thing, which that shit went nowhere, but y'all clowned me. Oh, you're still on Facebook. All the cool kids are doing Google. What was it called? Was it called Circles?
It was Google. I think it was Google Circle or something. I keep wanting to say Google Disc. Something round-ish where they would be like, well, it's not just a circle, it's specialer.
Because you could have, and they had it this is your friend circle, this is your work circle, this is your family circle, and that shit went nowhere.
I am really surprised Facebook didn't just try to straight up copy that. I guess they have like friends and acquaintances in the drop down that you can choose.
Yep. And I think they started that after that became a thing. They didn't always have that. It used to just be like you were on Facebook.
Take it back. They did copy.
Everybody was on Facebook with you.
Yeah.
Oh, bye, Devin. I'm glad you popped in for a minute. I wish you could hang out with us longer.
Yeah, same. Thank you for coming for a bit, Devin. You can come watch the replay, hopefully. What was... so I clowned you, and then I was going to say we were like the cryptocurrency bros, where we really fucking thought. And now we're like on Reddit going, my wife said that I could keep all the cryptocurrency in our divorce, and I thought I was making a really smart decision, but now I'm taking a bath. Is there anything I can do to bring her back to court?
And then make a follow-up post with jokes on you. I have lots of money. This was no big deal to me at all.
Every time.
Before we get into the episode, I want to share with the class my brown sugar vindication. Right?
Okay, right.
So
I forgot that you started this, and I told you to wait, so I'm unspoiled, guys.
I told the story last week about how I had volunteered to pick up like 2 things from the supermarket for my husband because he does all the grocery shopping and I'm useless. And he asked me to get sugar, and I came home with 2 bags of brown sugar that somehow I just missed. Well, dun, dun, dun. He was also mistaken. That's how crazy this packaging was. I didn't get brown sugar. I bought 2 bags of something called golden sugar.
I know golden sugar, which is fine. Right? That'll work for coffee.
It works just fine.
Yeah.
It's like a weird, for folks who haven't seen it or whatever, it's like a stepchild of like raw sugar and refined sugar. It's like a medium kind of place where you don't want like white refined processed sugar. You want something like a little bit more natural. But also raw sugar is gross and doesn't go well in like hardly anything, in my opinion.
I love me some hard like
Do you?
sugar, raw sugar. Yeah, but I like anything that gives sugar a more molassesy undertone. That's like my jam.
So it was crisis averted, and I got a little bit of indication because I couldn't understand why I would mistake fucking big bags of brown sugar. Like, I couldn't make myself understand how that would happen. But once I told it happened, I was like, all right, that sounds like some shit I would do. And then didn't do any additional investigation. And then I went to the kitchen a day later and noticed that the sugar was in we have like sugar, like the kind of you get diners, sugar dispensers. Right. And I was like, why would he use brown sugar in like, we can't use this.
It won't pour out. Yeah.
Right? And then I was like, oh, and once I saw it, I went into the cabinets looking for packaging, and it was like, it's golden sugar.
I love it. I love it. So he was a little right in that it was still like sending his dad shopping.
Yes.
But it worked out.
Maybe not his dad, like a dad.
His mom on a really bad day.
I'll take it. Oh my God. Can you?
What?
You can't hear that, can you?
I can hear like something very faint. It sounds like somebody jackhammering like 2 or 3 blocks away.
That's what it is. It's road work happening outside of my house every night this week.
I thought you were going to say, that's the Black Eyed Peas or something.
How funny would that be?
You know what? Black Eyed Peas.
The gold sugar, by the way, guys, I have been enjoying it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you see it, grab it. Treat yourself.
I'm just saying, it gives complexity to things. You just sometimes want a little bit of,
Yeah. All right. Let's get into this episode.
This episode is this is one of those episodes that I think one day is really going to hurt to watch. Because it's like great, but everybody is like having such a bad time. All of our friends, the only people who are having a really great time are Roy.
Roy is having the time of his life in this episode.
I can't imagine. And I guess like Nate, like.
Why do you say Nate?
Because he's just. I feel like he's in his element finally. He just feels comfortable in this episode with the 2 of them. in a way that it's not that he has felt uncomfortable, but there's just like I think it's the fact that he's sitting in there chatting with Beard without Ted being there.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like he doesn't have to be part of like the three of them. He has a thing going on with each of them.
Right. We also get that moment at the beginning where Ted actually leaves and tells Nate, you know, you get with Beard and, you know, get the plan going.
Mm-hmm.
Showing like, you know, confidence in Nate's abilities in a, you know, in a way. I agree that he seems like he's kind of settling into himself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And figuring out like where he fits.
Just remembering the glasses that make him look like Clive Owen. Is that who he is?
Clive Owen. You want to start from the beginning, I guess?
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to even remember where this starts because I only just watched it.
It opens with Ted alone in his little apartment, taking off his wedding ring and putting it in like onto his like dresser. And
I love this. It's so sad, but I really love it, you guys.
Yeah.
It's like just another thing where if you don't really understand what positivity is and trying to, like, you would be like, oh, he's going to keep his ring on. He won't be willing to take it off because he still has, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad he's like, no, we agreed that this is over now. And I am going to treat it like it's over.
Yeah.
That is not an easy thing. I wore my engagement ring and wedding ring after literally leaving for like a day or two.
Did you really?
Yeah. It was like I could literally pack up and fly out of state. And that wasn't as final as taking the rings off. I don't know what that was, but it was just like a thing. And my mom was like really aggro when she saw I was still wearing it and was like, why do you even have those on? Why don't you just sell them? And it was like 2 days. And I was just like, Ma, can you just calm the fuck down?
My God.
Yeah.
Your mom was like, that's over. It's canceled.
Because some people, if their mom said that, it would feel like, oh, she's trying to challenge me on whether I'm really committed to leaving. Mm-hmm. No, it was pure tactlessness. I know it was. I love my mom, but tact is super not her thing. So anyway, yeah, he does this and he comes in and he's
a mess.
Wreck. There's this whole bit with him putting his sweater on backwards. Did you see the tweet the other day where this woman said, if you're not doing well, take comfort in what just happened to me, where I was trying to put on a shirt, which was actually a pillowcase.
Oh no!
Struggled to find the armholes for 2 minutes before saying out loud, what is this, pants?
No, I did not see that.
And that's really the energy that he is bringing to this little sweater bit. Oh man, that kind of like physical comedy while you're also talking. Mm-hmm. It is a tricky thing, and it is just done so. And I love that I'm watching him putting it on, going, I think that's backwards,
right?
I want to reach out and be like, wait.
There's this great like moment where he like tries to like swivel, you know, do the swivel, you know, because you don't want to take it all the way off. So we all do that thing, right? We're like, well, I can fix it without taking it off. And
we think we're doing it the easy way. It's never the easy way.
We're just making this thing like take so much longer, and you're watching him, and you're just like, oh, Ted. Mm-hmm. Oh, baby. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the look on Nate and Beard's face as they're watching. And I think Beard like says something like, Michelle, like as an aside to Nate to like explain what's going on. Mm-hmm. And after this whole monologue, which is really all over the place, there's something where he asked about bath bombs, and Nate is like, oh no, I don't take baths. I get all wrinkly and I'm definitely afraid of aging.
There's his sort of, I don't even know if stream of consciousness, I guess it's stream of consciousness is very me stoned sort of energy, where I just say every like tiny thing that occurs to me and interrupt myself with nonsensical. Honestly, his little monologue here is really like a spoil me episode. That's kind of the whole vibe. Is I interrupt myself onto a tangent mid-sentence like 6 times, and then I'm like, what is this book about?
He owes you. Does he owe you royalties? Is he stealing your bit? He asked Beard about his favorite bath bomb, and Beard answers, I think he says like chamomile and honey. And Ted is like, are you calling me honey? And Beard is like, no.
And then he calls Nate Sweetie. And it took me a second. He's like, Sweetie. And I was like, what? Oh, I see. The whole like thing that he's saying is basically, I want to do something different. I decided to take a walk. I got lost. Then I got unlost. Then I got lost again. And just the whole like, I wanted to take a walk. I felt like I had pent up energy, and it sort of just made it all worse because I'm not used to doing this, and it didn't go according to plan. I just really felt this, and then the exact moment of I'm going to bury myself in work. No, bury is a bad word. I'm going to bathe myself. And that is exactly the way I talk to myself in my head sometimes. I'm like, well, it sounds bad if you say it like that. So I'm just going to carry out the behavior that sounds bad and name it a different thing, and it will no longer be a bad behavior.
When this bit is over and Ted leaves the room and Nate is like, is he okay? Beard has this perfect delivery. It's like a laugh, but also like, are you crazy? No, he's not okay at all. It's such a good line. I said this last time too, but Beard, his delivery is almost perfect every time. It's just the timing is impeccable. And his inflection is always like just spot on. It's so good.
I really wonder about auditioning somebody for a role like this, because you would have to give them a scene in which they say very little and they have a word and they have to fucking nail it.
Yeah.
You know, and that would be a really fascinating like audition to watch. I feel like it'd be, these pretzels are making me thirsty, but boiled way down, you know?
I think that I imagine because they write together, they have this like, you know, just chemistry you have on screen, but also because they're creating this together, their chemistry is so off the charts, and they just they know what they want the scene to be, and then they're able to actually be the ones to perform it to make sure that's what happens. So yeah, it's fantastic.
And shout out to Cam, who I meant to reply Cam on the Discord and I got sidetracked, but like I do. But Cam told me, and I don't know if this will ring a bell for you because you haven't watched all of Community like I have, but she said, do you know why Beard looks familiar to you? What if I told you that Jesus loves marijuana and drinking human blood? And I was like, oh my God. They pick up a hitchhiker in Community.
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
He is extremely scary by the time they finish like their first conversation with him, but he's in their car playing his guitar by then. And it's Beard.
Oh, fun.
And he thinks that he's Jesus. So he starts singing, Jesus loves marijuana. And he sings that a few times. And they're like, all right, we can get down with this. And then he says, and drinking human blood. And then it just smash cuts to somebody else.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll have to look for that because I really am smitten with this actor, Brendan Hunt. I would watch him pretty much in anything at this point. So I have to go look for that.
Yeah, I think it's really fun to see, you know, I mentioned the lady who owns the pub and Rebecca as being like British actors that I know, and Higgins. But there are a lot of like bit parts. I hate to use that because it feels really like degrading, but you know what I mean? Of actors that you just don't see. And I have to assume it's because they are maybe more comedic, or I don't know, but they're being given like a real moment here that I wonder how I just picture any time that they're like, I'm going to host an audition for a British TV show, and it's going to be either Masterpiece Theater style or probably like a murder mystery. And you're going to want like a certain type. But that's me sort of assuming that these guys can't play that type.
Right.
Maybe they can. What do I know? I haven't seen anything else. Anyway, sorry guys, that was a whole thing.
So we go to another press, sort of press. I don't know if they're. I guess this is a press conference, like a team with whatever. They're asking them about, oh, you won a game, and the big question on everybody's mind is he benched Jamie in the last game, and they won, and they want to know, like, are you planning on benching him again? And Jamie is watching in the background. You had questions last week about how Jamie was going to handle having been benched and then the team winning. What did you think about him in this episode?
It was so much worse than I even expected.
Really?
Yeah. Like, eventually he seems to come around some. And, thank you, Keely. But I said maybe he'll call in sick. And I did a little, like, joke cough on the phone. For me, that is a step up from I'm going to show up and I'm going to be there, but I'm going to strike and just sit and watch everybody else do the stuff with my arms crossed.
I'm just going to be a big baby about the whole thing.
I mean, that didn't even enter my mind as a possibility, because can you imagine doing that at your own job?
Listen, I'm low-key inspired.
You just walk up and sit down at your desk and just sit like this all day and wait for anybody to try and give you a hard time about it. I mean,
and just be like, I'm hurt. I can't do those reports. I'm hurt.
Oh my God.
Are you familiar with we're talking about practice? And all that. I was thinking about asking you to watch it. So that is a take on a very famous but old now at this point thing that happened here in Philly. So do you remember Allen Iverson? Mm-mm. You know his name or whatever. So Allen Iverson was a player for the Philadelphia Sixers. He is loved and beloved. He is we never won like a championship or anything with him, but he had a reputation for being just like he's one of those guys where people were like, he leaves everything on the floor, he was 110%, like he's that kind of player. So there was an incident where there was a personal tragedy in his life, and he didn't make practice, and it turned into this huge media firestorm. Like he was got I forget, maybe fined or penalized in some fashion from the organization, and he was doing one of these press deals like we see Ted does, like in the room, and he just unleashed. We're talking about practice, not a game, not whatever, practice, and it's super, super famous. So that's what he is pulling on when he's talking to Jamie about this whole thing about practice.
Gotcha.
It's it's an iconic moment. I would recommend just Googling talk about practice.
Okay, so that was somebody saying I'm talking about practice, and they were right. And he's turning it into, I'm going to throw it in your face because this is the opposite of that situation.
Kind of, yeah.
Gotcha,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And then again, because it's just such a, like I say, like in the sports world, it's, it's legendary. Whether you agree with Iverson or not at the time, because he was blowing up practice and people take that shit very seriously. So whatever. But it's, talking about practice.
Gotcha. Well, we have to back up though, because we skipped a conversation that he has with Rebecca where she tells him about that they want to stop his loan or take back his loan.
Yeah.
How does that?
Loan? Yeah, he's on loan. They want to. What does she say?
She says they want to take his, and he's like, "You're gonna take his house." And she's like, "What? No."
Or to cancel his loan or something. She says.
That's what it is.
But yeah, this is when we find out that he is on loan to Richmond from Man City, which is a Manchester United. Is even as someone who doesn't follow football at all, even I know Man City is a big, big deal. right? And Jamie has been on loan to Richmond, which is a smaller, less prestigious club. And she is, I don't know, she's telling Ted, like, they're interested in him back. And Ted makes it very clear, like, no, we're not. Well, he doesn't make it very clear because we have this funny thing where he gets stuck on the word plan.
Look, I would say, despite that, he does make it very clear.
Like, his intentions are clear, right? That he does not want Jamie to leave the team. He's got a plan.
This is what I'm sort of wondering is, by the end of this, when she goes ahead and trades Jamie anyway, I'm going to call it trading because that's the easiest way to say this. It's not the thing, but whatever. I am wondering if Ted is going to calm down and look back at the conversation and start to be like, I definitely did not say to do this. She's acting like she thought I wanted this, and she is not an idiot. And she knew I didn't want this. Because this, if anything, I feel like is a big enough deal that she may have given herself away. I don't know, because I don't really know how suspicious a mind Ted has.
Yeah.
You know, he's like perfectly willing to deal with attitudes and when people are being very obvious about their displeasure, but I don't know what he's like in terms of, he seems to be the type to really want to see the best in people. Right. But we've seen that with like how he dealt with his divorce. He isn't somebody to bury his head in the sand. So I feel like so far we've been shown he's a good judge of character.
My feeling is it doesn't, not so much that he buries his head in the sand, like, but he needs almost to be told explicitly what a thing is. And that he will think the best of you until you finally say, this is what the deal is. And then he adjusts and adapts to whatever the reality of the situation is. Even when he's yelling at her at the end, he's so mad, but he's like apologizing for his tone and everything, right? But
like when he dealt with her ex-husband, he came up with the idea, oh, you know what? I think he may have called and canceled it. And I feel like that shows he has a little bit of suspicion. He does like see, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. He does see, well, Rupert also though. I mean,
one would think it would be very obvious.
Right, I feel like
this move by Rebecca is sort of obvious. So combined with, well, again, guys, we're just getting so ahead of ourselves here. He gets stuck on the word plan and eventually goes and sees Beard, who tells them it's semantic something.
Semantic satiation.
Right. And this is something that I don't have so much when I'm speaking aloud, but I will have this real bad when I am writing and I have to write the same word over and over again.
Oh, really?
I will suddenly sit back and be like, that is just a couple of lines and they mean something? That doesn't make sense. How do we all agree that's the way to put the lines for it to mean that? And just like a real sort of moment, you know what I'm saying?
So suddenly, like, just like the alphabet has lost all meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sit and I look and I'm like, actually, this makes no more sense than like a Nordic rune or like a character in Chinese and like Mandarin. It doesn't, I just have that, it just looks like it means more because you understand it. And that, whoa, man, you just blew my mind, kind of, you know? But yeah, I've made a lot of like signs or crafts that have things written on them. And I've done a bunch of it in a row, like Merry Christmas, 30 cards in a row. And you just start to be like, Mary. That's a weird word. And why do like cursive R's look like that? What even is that? Anyway. So this is when Ted snaps on Jamie in the locker room. Honestly.
Did we get there yet?
Yeah, he comes in, he says semantic whatever, and then Beard tells him Jamie is here, but he says he can't practice today.
Right.
And he doesn't even reply. He just yanks the door open and goes out there, and he has a walk to him here, that is really funny because it's not the typical I'm angry aggro walk. He's almost got like a mom trying to find her kid at the playground because they ran off too far kind of walk. Like it's just got a really different energy than what I'm expecting, which is sort of shoulders first.
Exactly.
Like, you know?
It's not like a real like storming over kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And even when he first pops up and he first says something to Jamie and Jamie is just like, I'm hurt or whatever, he leaves. Ted like walks away and then turns around and comes back. And that's when he like really like lays into him. And you had asked last time, what does it look like, you know, because there was a moment in the last episode where it felt like Ted was about to lose his shit and he doesn't, and you were curious, like, what does that look like? What did you think of, like, you know, like we had that moment, that real tense moment in the locker room that Ted's son interrupted last episode. So now we get to see what sort of like, you know, angry, sort of disappointed Ted looks like. Did you buy it? Did you think like, no, I don't take this guy seriously? Like, what did you think?
Well, it was sort of, I think that part of it for me, I'm not going to say that I didn't take him seriously. I sensed that he was referencing something because the way he was phrasing things was so strange. And I was very distracted by the fact that it feels like he's trying to say something. And once he gets to the end and I'm like, okay, I get the sense of what he's saying, but it's still, I wasn't able to just fully like watch him be angry because I was trying to figure that out. That said, my favorite part of this is that it happens in front of the entire team because I wanted him to unleash on Jamie and he gets interrupted because his son walks in. But I look at it now and I'm like, yelling at Jamie while they're alone in the locker room is nothing. That doesn't do anything. It has to be like this in front of everybody and really intense and singling him out in a way that's impossible to ignore and that shames him in the end because he tells him to go set up cones. And now his teammates are refusing to like put up with his shit.
Yeah, it's
and that
immediate,
is like the
right?
defining thing for me. Yeah,
it doesn't take much.
And when he walks out and says it's just practice, and then turns around and walks in, all of the dudes who had been hanging out next to Jamie back out and go to the other side of the room. And there's just a sort of like undercurrent, like, oh shit. As he's doing, like, as soon as Jamie says it, everybody thinks, well, this is happening now.
Right? Like, look at the time. Like all of a sudden being associated with Jamie doesn't have the capital that it did before, right?
Yep.
Which is a little bit of an indictment on the teammates, but that is a real thing. You know, people gravitate to who they think has the most capital, the most privilege, the most power, and they want to be a part of that. They want to be adjacent to that. And when Jamie is behaving poorly in the earlier episodes, but there was no consequence, you know, people stuck by him. And now he looks like an ass. He's been an ass, but no one's been looking at him like he's an ass. And now everybody is looking at him like he's an ass, and nobody wants to be anywhere near him. My favorite thing is the only person that's left sitting near him is Roy on the bench.
Soaking it up. Roy is scooting closer.
He really is.
Later, Ted's like, this is a Schadenfreude free zone. And I'm like, not out there. In your office, maybe. But my man, it is not shared.
When it's all over and Jamie is trying to like tell Colin and Isaac to go set up the cones and everything, and they both have to be like, no, that's you're second team now. And Roy just like, it's got a sting. And then he like, all right, cheers.
Like, part of me is like, I get it, Roy. And another part of me is like, I wish you hadn't. But then I'm like, nah, he should.
No, he absolutely should. It's so fucking satisfying. It's so good.
And just like the whole like way that his face changes, I really think the guy playing Jamie here is really good because it does not occur to me for a moment that he isn't like this. I talk about everybody in this in terms of like their approach to the scene and their ways of delivering lines. And Jamie, I don't do that with because he's just an asshole. And that is him. And that is all it is. And I don't see this actor at all. And maybe if I see him in other things, it will be that he like tends to play this role and he's just really good at it, or he's just nailing the fuck out of this particular character. He sits there and has initially such a smirk. Even when Ted comes back out and continues to really yell at him, he's still very pleased with himself.
Oh, this doesn't matter. You're not saying nothing to me. Who are you? You're not even like
he's
anybody.
Making Ted look bad, if anything. Mm-hmm. He thinks he's winning by Ted snapping on him. Mm-hmm. And it takes at least halfway through, maybe longer, before you start to see any shame begin to appear on his face. Mm-hmm. And once it does, it really feels like it's not because of what Ted's saying. It's because everybody is watching this and nobody is saying anything on his behalf. And there's probably a very strong energy of everyone agrees with Ted. Yeah. And he's starting to realize as he looks around.
Yeah. You know? As he looks around and sees that he's like sitting by himself, standing by himself, you know, all that is what forces him. And then of course, Keely, you know, who, when he sees her a little bit later in the episode and she gives him that bit of advice about like, yeah, you're a fighter and that's what makes you like hot and everything you've always had to, but maybe
this is Keely with her tact, man. She comes in there with a big compliment about how hot it is. He just said, I'm not like everybody else. I don't need to do the things everybody does. Mm-hmm. And she still manages to come at him with a positive reinforcement comeback. How does she do it? How does she keep her temper in? Like, I could never. Would just be snapping on the first, giving him a compliment before I say something rather mild, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it works completely and it's the right thing to do. But I wouldn't have done it because I'm not good at that. This is why there are some people I just can't handle, I guess.
It's really effective. And I think that is a testament to, even though we've seen bits and pieces of it from Keely, but that she is really like emotionally intelligent, you know? And she's dealt with Jamie for a while. She knows him, even though they're not together anymore. She knows how he works and what will get through to him and what won't, you know, and how to handle him. Right. I love too when she's like, he wants to like go on a house or whatever. And she's like, it's Pavlovian.
That is so true too. That is exactly correct. I'm very proud of her for just acknowledging that and being like, I'm not even going to put myself in that situation. I don't need to smell your cologne at the same time as like my dryer sheets and think about you naked in my bed. No, we're not doing it.
So the other big piece of this episode is the introduction of a new character, a new teen player, Dani Rojas. Thoughts?
I thought that Sam was the golden retriever. I mean, Dani Rojas is called a golden retriever. I would hazard
a raven-haired golden retriever.
Yeah, I am not so sure I would agree with that as much as like, he's a puppy. He's the golden retriever puppy. And Sam is the golden retriever, like, sort of slightly more sedate and mature and much more, you know, outgoing and intense and upbeat than everyone else around him. But still, like, he's got it slightly more together than the puppy has. Because Dani is ready to straight up vibrate off the planet and begin to orbit the Earth. He is just at a frequency that I don't know how that's sustainable. But I have to assume it's like directed all through his feet, and that's why he's extremely good at
I can't remember his name. The actor's name is Christos something, I forget. But he is delightful. He went on a little bit of a press tour last summer, did a couple talk shows, and he is just like that. It seems. I mean, like, he's not running around the studio, but he just was like, so happy to be on every show, so happy to be interviewed, and just like, this is the best thing that ever happened. It's really, really, really sweet.
It's so, like, and it would be so easy for this guy to be a joke, and like, he is a joke, but not in a mean way, you know? It's just, especially like getting Jamie choosing to sit out this practice having to watch what it could be like if he just weren't such an asshole. You know, watching this guy who's like not only as talented as Jamie, as we find out, perhaps more so based on his accuracy levels later, but just immediately after this goal, tells Sam that was a beautiful pass. That's his first thing that he says. I wonder if that is hitting for him at all, that it could be so much different, you know?
Yep. It doesn't have to be like this, Jamie.
He just sees himself as so set apart that I think he doesn't really believe it. And then we find out about his father calling him soft. And I love the detail that his dad didn't even start showing up until he was winning already. So he's out here like telling him how to be when he was nowhere around during the moments when it was like hard and he was actually training.
Yep.
And all of a sudden trying to dictate to him, and how he kind of fell for it.
Yeah.
And admits like, I lost track actually of who I was trying to impress, because that is a thing, especially when a parent seems to like have not approved and then they turn up. You are going to want to impress them extra. You know, they abandoned you. You're going to try and keep them around.
That's exactly what I was about to say. After the abandonment, and then like as a kid, you know, your parents split, you know, one leaves or whatever, and you internalize that and start to think like maybe there's something you could do to make things different. And then in his case, it turns out, actually it was something that he could do. You know, it turns out he's this really gifted football player, and it's something his dad appreciates. So he's able to, like, his dad comes back. Clearly his dad seems terrible. And Jamie's behavior, once you learn this little bit about his history, not to give him a pass, because he's just been a bit of a dick since we've met him.
I would take bit of off.
Right. But it adds a little bit of like, fleshes out like what might be going on there. Oh my God. Not that we're jumping around a little bit, but when Dani Rojas comes out and, you know, they have practice and he scores and Roy has another line, he's like, oh, looks like he's pretty good or something like that. And then like pats him on the back and says cheers again and runs off.
I swear to God. Okay, you're right. We're jumping around too much because I was about to start talking about that now. You can't do that. You can't start me down there.
Sorry. All right. So back in, we did Dani scoring. Right. The team celebrates. We go to Rebecca. And Keely comes in. She's talking to Higgins, and this is when we find
apparently
out.
all these coaches think she's going to need a new coach soon, and they're trying to put their names in,
right?
Which is amazing. Like everybody's like, "This guy, okay."
And Keely comes in. This is so sweet. First of all, did you see her notebook?
I sure did. The notebook that looks like it was in that like back to school section at Walmart that they set up during the season.
And Rebecca tries to like shame her about it, but there's no shame. Keely is like, why wouldn't I have this? This is awesome.
And
Higgins.
I'm sorry, I was just imagining what you would say if I said
Rebecca's fucking face when he says that.
Oh my God. Higgins, you're not there, bud. And it's, you know what? It's fine. You have your spot. And that is perfectly respectable. And just know that. It's good you know that. You aren't going to try and imitate Keely. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Good.
You're not going to fall for that. But, Rebecca's that face she gives him. And she's just like, all right, you can go now. Yep. And Keely is here to offer moral support for this, like, bad news story that turns out Rebecca is not aware of. And Keely is like, I came here for comfort, not to fucking be the one that tells you the bad news.
She has to tell her old Rebecca.
This is so Rupert's dating. Oh my God, can we talk really quickly when fucking Keely is telling her, she says, remember that super fit, you know, woman that was at the gala, right?
Yeah.
And Rebecca is just kind of like, do we have to talk about how stunning she was?
Do you want me to pretend she wasn't? Yes. Okay. Well, that cow.
That hideous cow.
Yeah, this is so awful because as I get older, I really begin to appreciate there is just a sense when you're younger that getting old is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Like, if I just keep my cool attitude and manage to like not gain a bunch of weight is always one of the big caveats that was in my mind, then I can stay hot to a degree forever. It's not like I don't have to become a frump.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing that you let happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking at myself and I'm like, even if I had kept my figure, there are just some things that don't sit the same.
Yep.
There's just some things that don't quite look the same. And that is not to say that you are unattractive, but it is to say
but it's not
we have
youth.
a very specific set of parameters that we judge ideal beauty by, and those are unachievable, just flat out. And you can get plastic surgery, and you can get lifts, and you can get clothing that holds you, and all of that will get you slightly closer to those parameters, but none of them will fool anybody into genuinely thinking that you meet those parameters.
And
it will all look kind of,
and there's
for
a
her
certain
age,
thing, exactly, for her age. Like, say you manage to, because the Rebecca, the actress that's playing her, is stunning, right?
Yep.
But she's not 22.
No.
And you can't, doesn't matter how beautiful you are, how in shape you are, how well tailored your clothes are, how attractive you might still be. When you go neck and neck, you're not beating 22. You can't. Like, we are so fixated and focused on youth and everything we ascribe to it. There's no faking it and there's no beating it. Right. Yep. So it is a situation where no matter what you do, you cannot change it. Like, that's just, it's out of your fucking hands.
Yep.
And you can be in denial about it and spend a bunch of time, money, and effort trying to make it different, but you can't.
Yep.
And because it's a thing that skews towards penalizing women in a way that it doesn't men, it is a really soft, sore spot to poke at. Yeah. And these fucking tabloids are poking at it on purpose. They know what they're doing. And Keely has to, when Rebecca says, "Oh, I guess they're calling her new Rebecca."
Keely has just this deer in headlights look, like, oh my God, she's still not getting it. I have to say it. I have to say it to her. Oh God.
Like, no. Yeah. No. And then she like mutters it real low, like it barely comes out. They're just calling her Rebecca, and she can't even, and Rebecca's like, what? Old Rebecca. And then it's like the
zoom in, like when Frodo had the ring, and all of a sudden the ring wraiths are above them while he's hiding in the tree roots. And he turns and sees them coming down the path. Yeah.
And so this moment happens, and then we don't really talk about it again until Rebecca throws the newspaper in the barrel. But I want to ask you, do you think that had anything to do with everything else that happens in this episode? Or do you think Rebecca was going to, like, do you think it's related to the fact that she decided to instigate this trade at this moment? Or do you think, like...
I could see that. Yeah, maybe. I don't want to jump. You're jumping ahead again. We can't do this. Cloak says Rebecca is still very beautiful, though she's older, but she has such an elegant badassery too. And absolutely,
agreed. Yeah,
but that's not 22. It's just not the same. That's the thing. I can look at her and genuinely mean it when I say I would rather look like her than like Bex, and I mean it. I really do. But there is a capital to how Bex looks that you are never getting back. It is not happening for you. That is a power that is fleeting and very specific. And once it's gone, there is zero you can do to get it back. It's just gone.
Yep. It's a bummer.
Yep. And, that's the thing that people are like, why are women doing X, Y, and Z? And it's because we know how limited our power is. And losing any of it is absolutely excruciating. It's really hard. We can understand how flawed a society that gives us that as one of our sole sources of power is, but we also live in that society. And so that loss is real.
Luis is in the chat talking about cough, Leo DiCaprio, cough,
Mm-hmm.
cough.
So let's take a break right here. Okay, we're back. So, all right. So this is when the moment where Keely goes and meets Roy on the treadmill and tells him that she's pretending that they're taking a walk together. And she's got her boots on, her like spike heel.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's reading his little book. He's still reading his book.
I need these two to actually get together. It's gone beyond shipping now, and it's now into the actors themselves as people should date. That's how strongly I feel about this at this point. The chemistry between the two of them is so insane. And I feel that like new relationship fluttery when I watch them.
Do you?
Genuinely.
Oh,
like
that
I'm
is
like
so cute.
It is off the charts. And she's telling him about a bunch of shit she found out, and that he did like a rap for World Hunger, which is truly amazing.
Winner chicken dinner, and he's like, "That's for World Hunger." She's, I'm sure you saw.
It was winner football dinner.
Oh right. I'm sorry. That's even worse.
So much worse.
And he's like, it's for World Hunger, and she's like, I guess you solved it or something.
So, and I'm sure it solved it. But this bit here is him going, "What are you stalking me?" And there's a moment of just like, "Oh, she's in at me." And then she's like, "Yeah, I'm looking up all of the players and their backgrounds." And it's just like,
right. He gets all salty. I'm not one of your show ponies.
You trot around while people clap, so maybe just chill out with your attitude. And I just enjoy so much how aware he is that when she says that, it's a complete win. He's just like, all right. Let me read. So yeah, this bit, you guys, I can't get enough of it. It's such a tiny little taste. This is such a short scene. It's like 3 minutes long, and it's all we get of the two of them this episode. And it's killing me. Because frankly, this is the plot for me. This is the main plot. And you guys know, I don't give a shit about romance in so many things, because it's done badly in most stuff. Vast majority. I'm talking 99% is bad. Man is bad.
I am so here for how into the possibility of a relationship with these two people are. I am so tickled by it. I mean, it's fucking Roy Kent though.
His jawline is stupid.
Yo,
it's not even right.
He's someone else that is delightful. I listened to his podcast all last summer, and it's really good, and he's really funny. And also, this may actually make him sound worse. But did I tell you already, he graduated with a degree in film studies and feminism?
No.
Yeah, girl's hot.
Oh,
it's so
shit.
Hot. And his podcast is called, Movies to Be Buried With, I think. And the gimmick is he has guests on, and he reads their death notice, and it's usually you died in this hysterical, horrible way, really embarrassing or whatever. And then it's what movies would you want to be buried with? And then what movies when you get to heaven, what movie do you hope is playing and stuff
Home
like
Alone.
that? Ah, there you go. So you ready?
I want Home Alone in heaven, and that's that.
And after we get caught up, I definitely want you to listen to it, because eventually he has almost everybody from the show join him at some point, and it's
I'm about
lot.
To
it's a
email
lot
him and be
of fun.
Hey, I have things to say about Home Alone. You should invite me on your.
I don't think anybody has ever picked that, so he might let you on just because literally no one else has said it.
What joy! But yeah, so these two, it's just also the sense of grown-upness of them both, and that's such a draw to me in we're gonna try and have a relationship that could potentially be actually healthy. And that's just so rare.
It's so rare.
It's always just like weird problematic behavior that we're acting is like charming when really it's sort of aggressive or creepy or controlling.
So many things that spiral out of control because people can't have a fucking conversation like a grown up.
Or don't believe each other, don't trust each other. Yeah. I have to laugh too at like the difference between what he looks like and what Jamie looks like, because they really do feel like they represent the maturing eye of a woman who is into men, looking at dudes and being like, that is what I liked when I was 22.
Yeah.
And that is not doing it for me anymore.
Yeah.
And
like that was fine then. It was
Jamie
fine.
Looks like he was sculpted for Pixar to be a douchebag who thinks
he's
too much of himself.
That bad.
No, I'm not saying that he's like that bad. He has a face with such extremely high cheekbones, with such a square like jaw and that sort of hollowness under the cheeks, with such pouty lips and the eyebrows. His face is so extreme in every direction that would indicate handsomeness that it's almost cartoonish. And I feel like he's going to look so good in like 10, 15 years. I feel like he's going to be ridiculous. At the moment, I'm just like, oh my God, you look like a nightmare. I just would never want to even like be near you.
Such an unfortunate name too. Like the actor's name is Phil Dunster.
Oh, I am so sorry to any Dunsters who might be listening to this episode. But I'm sure you already know.
But also, again, like anytime I've seen him do any kind of press or anything, really funny, really sweet. Like everybody on the cast that I've seen do any kind of anything, I have every time I've been like, fuck, they seem awesome. And you know how that can go either way. Like, you never, I don't know these fucking people.
Right.
But every time I'm just like, oh, he is so charming. Oh, she's delightful. Just every time.
I'm
really,
sure it's not like necessarily true, but I feel like to get this sort of comedy to work, you've got to have actors that have that level of like empathy and self-awareness themselves to get why the jokes are funny.
I agree.
And that's I'm not trying to claim everybody who does well in this show must be a good person, but there is something to that, I think.
Yeah.
The whole point of when comedy works, it's because you're facing a truth in a way. That,
when it's done well.
When it's done well. And the way that they're approaching truths is like, they're trying to do it in a kind way. And so many people just don't really understand how that can also be funny.
Yeah. That's what's so great about the no Schadenfreude zone. Because Nate is really, after the whole, like, we're talking about practice, Nate is really enjoying Jamie getting this little bit of a comeuppance, which for Nate, having been been victimized, like he's here for it in a real way. And Ted immediately shuts it down. Like, no, that's not what this is about. It's not about like reveling in me taking down someone else. This is about trying to do something different.
Yeah.
And just including that quick moment after that scene, because we all fucking have been watching Jamie, and we're all low key kind of like, yeah, fuck you, yeah, you just, and it's like the show is being like, wait, yes, he had it coming, but also that's not what we're about.
But also we will have Nate just be like, oh,
right,
one last moment, right at the end, because okay,
yeah. So Dani Rojas is out there.
This guy's legs, I just straight up was like, that man is not injured. I can tell because he can't get injured because he's a machine. Look at the muscle structure. He's been assembled in a lab somewhere that is out of control. He looks like he's on springs. Like, even every step with his jog carries him further than it should. How? Do you know that I found out that I have such short strides when I jog that all my, like, every tracker that I've used when I've gone running ever has been overestimating by like 1.5 feet per step?
No, I didn't know that.
Apparently, I basically shuffle with like a hop mixed into the shuffle, and that's my stride. So jogging isn't necessarily faster than walking because of the way I do it. So I'm just saying, this guy who's like boing boing with every, like, his strides have to be like 4.5 feet.
There was a thing on Malcolm in the Middle. There was an episode where the dad Hal gets obsessed with speed walking, like just gets really into it. Like he's got a whole like uniform and a special aerodynamic helmet and everything. And there's this other guy who's so good at speed walking, and he has an even more ridiculous aerodynamic helmet, right? And the guy is like super popular, like gets all the chicks, all the speed walking chicks, mind you.
With the helmet on? No.
And Hal becomes obsessed with trying to beat him, and he can't figure out like how this guy is so good, so fast. And then he secretly videotapes the guy walking, and discovers that in every third step, the guy like does a hop. And like for speed walking, like you're never supposed to have both like feet up in the air at the same time or whatever. Oh. And he does a little hop and like ends up like, you know, destroying his whole reputation. Oh my when you God. Tell me if it doesn't make me think of that.
I mean, literally though, I have timed myself, and my jogs are only very slightly faster for the same distance than my walks were. It's really something. I told you, I'm built like a little corgi dog. I have very, very short legs. They do what they can. They pump furiously. They are hard at work. I'm not blaming my legs. They're doing structurally, they can only do so much.
They're doing the very best that they can under the circumstances.
I imagine, like, if you put like a long skirt on me, I'd look like R2-D2. Like, I just kind of
Halloween costumes sorted.
Oh man.
So Dani is running around the field like a raven-haired golden retriever, though Natasha says puppy, and trips and is injured, and this is bad news for the team because he's so great, and now he's down. And we get what I think is a hysterical scene in the locker room where everybody is aware of the curse except Ted and Beard.
Ted says, all right, that's enough. If one person says one more word that me and Beard don't understand. And that was exactly how I was feeling, because the treatment room, I'm thinking, like, are there drugs in there? Does that mean that he saw him going to, like, get high and then he went out and injured himself because he was fucked up? Like, I had no idea where they were going with this. And then it turns out it's a curse, and I am here for it. And I really appreciated Sam being the one to mention later. People are going to think, oh, the Nigerian guy is going to be super into this. Okay. And I was like, you know what? I didn't realize I was thinking it, but I did think that actually. It's just fucked up.
Rebecca's like, oh, you're not? And he goes, oh, no, I am. I really am. But it's mostly Harry Potter related. Harry Potter.
So this is... We find out in a really wonderful scene where they're all at the pub together, and Jamie is not.
I love that moment. That's so great. They're talking about the Scorsese thing is really funny because they're all like naming their favorite movies.
It made me realize how few Scorsese movies I've seen.
Oh.
I've seen Goodfellas. That was the only one I saw out of all the ones listed. Not a single other. Yeah.
Huh. We might have to. Well. Yeah, you probably are fine. I mean, there's some great fucking movies, but I don't know how well they stand up, and I haven't seen a lot of them in a long time. So
yeah,
I don't want to be responsible for sending anybody in those directions. Right.
But yeah, it comes out that there was a flyer put up asking young men who were good at football to gather for tryouts at this place, and it turned out that it was actually for recruitment into the army, which is just classic. Truly, if that isn't everything, then what is?
Yeah.
And
now we just have big halftime shows during our sporting events to recruit you.
So these dudes get sent off to war, and then those that come back are treated in their treatment room.
No, it's the physicals for the people that enlisted. The physicals took place in a treatment room, and then
oh, really? Is that what it was? Oh, I totally misunderstood that.
And then of the 400 that enlisted during this sort of campaign of bringing people in, a very small number made it home, I think is what May says.
And I'm assuming that this is a true story of a thing that happened. I'm over here just completely assuming because that sounds right.
That's actually, I didn't think to look into that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds right, though. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Why they would use a big space like that for recruiting, it sounds totally reasonable.
After they enlisted, you know where they went for their physical. You're right. Okay. I totally misunderstood this. And everybody essentially begins to break out in a hubbub, and Ted interrupts and says, no, it wasn't the treatment room. And then he stops and he's like, okay, it really was. I don't know why I lied about that, but I just needed you guys to chill out for a second. And that felt extremely correct to me. Just get everybody to stop for just a moment and collect. And
right.
Okay, yeah, it is true.
Just take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
I love when at the beginning when we show up at the pub and we see Jeremy, Baz, and Paul, and Baz is the last one in. He's the little one, and he's just like, "What the fuck are y'all staring at?" And then they're just like, "The whole team is here." Because trying to imagine being a hardcore fan, and you walk into your neighborhood establishment, and the thing that you love the most in the world, everyone is there,
literally sitting there. Yeah.
I can't even imagine. I'm trying to think of an equivalent for me. What would that be? If I walked into my neighborhood bar, who all would be sitting there? I can't even.
The only thing I can think is Beyonce. I can't even get that fictional scenario to be real.
I can't even.
Just too out.
Right?
So
right, I can't. I almost interrupted you and been like, that would never happen. Of course it would never happen. That's the whole point of the conversation we're having. But my brain is like, yeah, no.
And I mean, this guy is a coach that they see all the time, so they know it's not that far. But you're right. I don't really have any comparison that I can make.
Yeah, and even though
maybe if it's the whole cast of the Circle season 4,
oh my God, how funny would that
something
be?
like that would be really fun.
That seems more accessible, right?
Yeah, or maybe even the cast of the show, this show,
right?
Maybe.
I think the thing that's difficult, especially for me, is I'm not being a big sports person, is trying to remember the context of what we're watching, which is this is a Premier League team. Mm-hmm. This is a, even though they're not doing great right now, this is a huge deal, Mm-hmm. If a couple of years ago when my husband was still working at the bar, once a year, this old hockey player, I think he played for the Flyers, but anyway, he was a big deal in the 70s, right? He would come to the bar, and it was a huge fucking deal. And this guy hadn't been playing professional sports in fucking 50 years. And it was a huge deal when he showed up. And that's just one guy. So this is the whole team. And this is the current team, right?
Man, I just truly can't wrap my mind around it mattering. Sure, but also what? But okay, if you say so, but I don't believe you.
I forget the guy's name, but if I'm not mistaken, he played on the same line as Wayne Gretzky at one point or something. He was a big deal. And everybody would go fucking nuts. I think I got a selfie with him. I got caught up.
Oh my God.
But so I just really like that little moment where they're just staring.
Yeah. And what they decide here is that they're going to get together at midnight and each bring something that is really important to them specifically and burn them. And this was I was kind of wondering why that? why is that going to help? I think I know why. As a team building exercise, it would certainly help.
What if Ted says something like, we're gonna sacrifice something that's important to us to honor the sacrifice of the soldiers, is like his spin, right?
Right. And that's supposed to, I guess, like, ease their ghosts or something, make it like even, like we the scales are unbalanced and we're getting punished because we haven't sacrificed, so I guess we'll sacrifice and, like, quiet the unquiet dead sort of thing. Which I suppose, like, it's better than doing nothing, because if people say a room is cursed, I'm just going to believe them. I have the exact reaction that Roy does, where I'm like, no, I don't believe in it. I'm not going in there. Absolutely fucking not. No, I'm just not.
When he asked him why not, I don't want to. No.
That's exactly the thing. I mean, I don't believe in it, but why would I risk it?
Yeah, right. There's no need to antagonize the things that I don't necessarily believe in.
Like, I haven't looked in the mirror and said Bloody Mary 3 times either, because I'm not an idiot. Like, I don't think it happens, but also, why would I just, like...
Why would I invite it in?
Yeah, you could just not do it and not deal with Bloody Mary.
There's other things I'm going to say into the mirror. Like, you could yell at myself for 20 minutes like I normally do. Why would I need to, like, invite a ghost into that situation?
Oh, you could yell at yourself, or you could go, hey, Legs, I know you're doing your best. You're bringing your all. Pedaling furiously down there. So this is the deal. And of course, Jamie doesn't want to participate.
Yeah, he doesn't even show up at the pub. After they decide that they're going to do this, I think it's when we get the scene where Sam goes to Rebecca's office to get her to participate. Right.
Yes.
This is just the cutest thing.
What a wild pairing. She is just beaming when he leaves in a genuinely startled way. When he leaves and closes the door, it looks like she caught herself that she was smiling. And also she realizes that she said see you, which is basically her saying she'll be there. He, like, kind of tricked her, but he didn't trick her at all. It's just,
He's so sweet and earnest, because what does he say? I think he opens with something like, "What are you doing tonight?"
Yeah,
which she mistakes as like a sort of an invitation, for a date, and so she reacts very like, "Oh, I can't,"
Which, Rebecca, what is wrong with you though? The man is adorable, and you're single. And dating a footballer half your age, I feel like would just do good things for you. I just do.
When he says, no, it's not that. She mumbles something like, well, it's good because, I've got a lot of things going. It kind of trails off.
And he says something about how I'm sure you get lots of offers, so it's understandable why you would make that mistake, which is just so great. Like, because it just feels a very sincere thing. Like, oh, I bet you get that all the time. I'm sorry. I probably just sound like another dude.
Right. He's like, of course, look at you. Why wouldn't people be like trying to date you all the time? It's just such a great moment.
But yeah, he asks her to come. He unfortunately brings up J.K. Rowling, who is just outdoing herself this week. I posted about it on the Facebook group, guys, but truly...
That new book of hers?
Yeah, it's out of pocket. This bitch has lost the entire thread, and I really wish that his little bit there had to do with anybody else.
Anybody else. I have chosen to believe that Jason Sudeikis regrets that that's what he did here.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to believe that I don't know how he could be unaware, but I understand not everybody is deeply invested in the Harry Potter universe as we all have been. So there are a lot of people who really just don't know. Mm-hmm. Bums me out. And
it was so up till fairly recently that being like, he's really into Harry Potter would just have been a wholesome attribute. And there would have been nothing carried in that. Yep. It would have just been. But here we are today, and here we are.
He has a line, too. He says something about J.K. He says he really likes that someone can become rich for what they
gave to the world.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember I thought the same way. Mm-hmm.
100%. But yeah, he says then, like, I really wish you would think about it, because at first she just straight up says no. And he's like, I apologize, but I cannot take no for an answer.
Yep. I came with very strict instructions.
I love it. He gets her to come, and then we cut to everybody in the locker room putting the things that mean a lot to them in the barrel.
Oh my
and
God.
Like I said, obvious as a team building exercise, because everybody has to tell a story about themselves that's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, just getting to see something about a person that likely, especially in a group of men, let's be honest, never comes up, except for maybe the Lamborghini or the models that they have sex on the beach,
I laugh so hard. Rashard is such a funny little character, and we see him, or he doesn't really get to talk much, but this whole thing about pouring out the sand from the beach for the first time he had sex with a supermodel. Fucking Colin dumping his keys to the Lamborghini, and then somebody, I think it's Beard, being like, how are you getting home? Yeah. But that's it. Like, he doesn't go back and get the keys out of the can.
He's just like, I guess I will figure something out, because I own a Lamborghini, and that means doors are open to me.
Roy tells a story about his blanket, which he calls Blanky. Mm-hmm. And he has to, like, tell the guys to fucking settle down, because they're trying to have jokes about it. And it's when Keely's on the treadmill and she talks about, like, reading his story and finding out about a little boy who, whatever. And it's a nice tie-in to Roy telling us, because we don't realize, like, he was 9.
Yeah.
Like, that's how talented he was. And that's how serious scouting is for this sport, that they're, like, snatching up children to get them into this,
Wow, when you put it like that.
It sounds sinister, but I think it is sinister.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, all right, damn.
And Sam has a picture of the Nigerian 1994 team that won the World Cup. One guy whose name I don't know just drops a pair of panties in there, and I kind of wanted to hear that story.
Because there's a lot that, like, we just get a quick glimpse and no dialogue or anything. Yeah. So you're left to sort of fill in the blanks on what happened there, which is, honestly, I should pause it at each one and try and take a guess as to what the story is behind some of this stuff. But it really felt significant to me that Rebecca burns the tabloid, because that's simply not the spirit of the thing.
It's not. And Ted is like, is that today's newspaper? Because he's kind of hoping it's going to be like an old one that means something.
Yeah, she's here because she can't say no to the delightful Sam and is overwhelmed by his just, like, spirit in that moment that she shows up. Mm-hmm. But she's not at a point where she's, like, going to participate and actually mean it.
Not in a real. Did you catch Hagen's cat?
Shit, I forgot it now, but it was an amazing pun.
It's Cindy Crawford.
That's right. Look, the pun animal names are some of my very favorite. I live for that. It's always the kind of thing that when I hear one, I just can't fathom how somebody thought it up, because I am so bad at that. I just am.
I can't believe it never occurred to me to name a cat Cindy Crawford. It was right there this whole time. Never in a million years would have come up with it. It's so good.
I really am fascinated by, like, the way people name animals and how right they can feel, even though they're totally apart from each other. Like, all the cats that I had when I lived with Brendan had names of people. And, like, Arya does as well, I guess, but it's a character.
Right.
Ripley is a real name. But I had, like, Nathaniel and Matthias and Mac and Mindy and Ferdinand. Like, those are
that's a really good one.
But then I hear people whose names are like, my cat's name is Pancake, and it's perfect.
Right.
And I would never have named my cat Pancake, but, like, now that you say that your cat's Pancake, obviously that was like a soul connection.
Right.
You're like, correct, and I can just see that.
You're like, that is the right name.
Yes.
Yeah. What else would it be? Of course it's Pancake. Yeah, we had the cats in North Carolina were all like people names, but we tried to stay in like old people names. So we had a Mabel,
nice.
We had an Iris, we had a Lester, we had a George, we had a Jerry.
Nice. Like, I like it.
Like any kind of like old man. That's why Roscoe's name was
anybody
Roscoe.
Who might be working at like a Jewish deli in Brooklyn. Is what you named the cat.
Basically. We named one cat Jerry and one cat Newman, which because if we had the Jerry, you had to. But
especially if they didn't get along. That would be extra fun.
They did not. Jerry was the one that had like a secret family. Like they were stray cats that we were taking care of, but apparently he was like a stray cat in 3 different neighborhoods. He had like houses everywhere that were taken care of.
I got holes in different areas.
Oh, I want to say really quick too, the thing that Isaac throws in the barrel, I don't really get this, but I think it says this is the only pen I can write my name with.
And it quacks like a duck or something.
It lights up.
And it's like a big, thick pen. So is it just supposed to be that he doesn't have fine dexterity? Or
Keely says something earlier when she's on the treadmill. She says, "Did you know Isaac's mom has 2 left hands?" So I don't know if that's what's going on with that joke.
Oh my God. I didn't realize that was the same guy.
And then, of course, there's no additional context provided, so I have no idea what the hell's going on, but I just really, it made me laugh.
Honestly, the sacrifices all feel pretty significant. Throwing the only pen you can write your name with. And look, I know that people are getting rid of treasured heirlooms and stuff, but you guys know how I feel about fucking pens. It's no joke.
I was about to say that, Roy threw away his grandpa's blanket. And you're like, no, the pen though.
That blanket was in the closet. It means a lot, but he doesn't use it. It's like a thing. A pen that's actively in use that will cause you immediate inconvenience. Mm-hmm. That feels like a pretty big deal to me. Yeah. I mean, the Lamborghini keys. He could have gone and grabbed those out, and I would not have blamed him one little bit. But he didn't.
He's going to pay that locksmith.
I guess he is.
That's going to be part of the sacrifice.
I guess so. Oh, my God. You saw that thing with my friend whose car got stolen with the keys that got lost by the cops?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's not cheap, guys, to get, especially with these chipped keys now. Getting a key replaced.
Yeah, that was a fucking banana story.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to bring that negativity into this. I'm so sorry, everybody.
So after everybody puts their belongings in, Ted goes to light the barrel, and Beard once again.
Thank God, Beard.
Perfect delivery.
He is literally going to light it. If nobody had stopped him, they would have allowed it to happen. These other men who agree with Beard immediately, but did not have the stones to say shit in the moment.
They were just going to stand by and watch disaster engulf them all.
Can you imagine the press if the next day the whole team was just found dead from carbon monoxide poisoning on the floor of the fucking cursed treatment room?
Well, whatever the headline is, according to Keely, it would probably rhyme.
It would definitely rhyme. They'd figure it out. But, my God.
In the chat said that reminded us that the guy who throws the panties in sniffs them before he throws them.
No, I don't want to know.
Which I had forgotten, but you were right. That does happen.
I hate it.
So they take the thing outside and do a little bit of a dear spirit world, hear us, accept our sacrifice, yada yada yada. And then he says, ask for a sign, show us a sign if you accept, And then Dani comes out, and he's fine and he's singing. He's got a giant bottle of tequila. And it's a great moment. And then we have a really not great moment with Rebecca, Higgins, and Ted.
Yeah, this was surprising to me because what it is that they knew Dani was fine hours earlier. Mm-hmm. And Ted convinced Higgins to not say anything to the team so that he could have this moment, this reveal.
Opposite. Higgins' idea.
It was Higgins' idea.
It's Higgins' idea. To keep Dani's recovery secret so it can be impactful in this moment.
Gotcha. Okay.
And he gives Higgins credit for it. And that's when Rebecca goes, really? Just a team player, huh? Or something along
putting
those
the
lines.
Team first.
Yeah,
putting the team first. He says it seems so.
And the tension between the two of them in this moment.
What I find surprising here is that I'm assuming all of the players like had to know that this was set up. Of course he was probably fine for hours and then he just walked out just now. Of course this was like a staged thing. Like I would assume that, and it was done well, and it's like, I would appreciate the setup of it, but it would by no means be like, if he hadn't done this, it wouldn't have, like, this whole evening wouldn't have mattered and brought them together the same way, at least to me. So I feel like she is assigning like an effectiveness to this one particular thing, or that I don't know if that's necessarily warranted. She's taking this as like a particular kind of betrayal, and I'm like, but he's working with the team in many respects all the time, and this is the thing that you really like feel he shouldn't have contributed the same way. I don't know. It just was surprising to me that she took issue with this, and I guess maybe there's not a lot that he has like the creative license. I think
that's what it is. I think in his capacity, he is, operational and administrative, and he's Rebecca's sort of second hand, right? Mm-hmm. And he's also aware of what Rebecca's real motivation is and what she really is wanting to happen with this team. And he's supposed to be in league with her, getting the story at the Independent, getting the photographer to take the pictures, right? He's supposed to be her henchman. And he has now, everything he's been doing with the team has sort of been passive because he's not really part of the coaching staff or anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. He asserted himself in a way to the team's betterment that he hadn't really yet done.
Yeah.
He like took an active role in this whole charade. And you're right, this is all very performative, right? Like this is about team building. This is about deciding to throw in together with the team and be something greater than we are, separate and all that kind of shit, right? Mm-hmm. And so having Dani come out in this moment is, again, a part of the performance. It's sort of we know that this is all like kind of low-key bullshit. We know that we didn't like sacrifice their gods and he suddenly got healed, but it's about like, we're all participating in this performance, and Higgins chose to participate, and Rebecca does not seem thrilled by that at all.
I'm watching the moment too, where he says it was Higgins's idea, and I'm trying to see if Higgins registers immediately that he's going to be in trouble in a second. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he gets the eyes, and you don't say, and he does a yes. Yep. And looks at her and then looks away immediately. It's like the way that you handle a dog that's menacing you in the street, and you just don't look it in the eyes.
I love to, because I just rewound it so I could watch it with you. When Higgins and Rebecca have that eye contact, Ted is in the frame, but he is completely focused elsewhere. Yeah. He's not like registering any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way she walks off the field.
Yeah, this is when he asks her if she would like to get closer to the fire. It's a little warmer. Symbolism, everybody. And then she says, respectfully pass. She has like, is it like a team jacket on? Mm-hmm.
Because she's got like just kind of, it's like over her shoulders, but like she doesn't have her arms in the sleeves because it's just like, because
she's a mob boss.
That as well. She is a mob boss, isn't she?
I will say too that like this happens almost simultaneous as everybody is telling Dani not to throw the mezcal into the fire, and it's a moment of rare agreement between Jamie and Roy where they're both like, no, what they'll appreciate is the sacrifice of the empty bottle. That's a lot more meaningful.
Yeah.
But yeah, she walks off and she just tosses the team jacket down and keeps walking. And Ted watches and sees her do it, but there's no indication on his face that he recognizes that as any sort of particular symbol.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is what I mean, is like, is tomorrow when he finds out and he has some time to think about it, is he going to start to put it together that she had this like moment? And then, especially if her attitude towards Higgins seems to change very substantially, but I don't know if it will, because she has been so cold with him already in such an extreme way that I don't know what kind of like change there would have to be.
Yeah, like how much would what else could she? How much worse could she possibly be with Higgins? Is kind of the question. I love to when she passes. She says she's not going to hang out, and then Ted asks Higgins, "Is he going to come?" Higgins doesn't respond, and she says, "Off you go." Again, like you're talking to a dog, right?
Yep.
Kind of gives him permission, like, all right, you threw your lot in. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I felt like less giving permission as much as, oh, you chose your side already. Buddy.
Yeah, like a dismissing almost, right?
Yeah, like you could try and stand here and pretend that you didn't, and we both know. So just go ahead.
And we didn't talk about it in this scene, but we talked about it earlier. The part with Jamie talking about his father and his mother and all that. So if anybody's listening, think like, oh, you guys, we talked about that at the beginning.
Nobody's jumping to this moment in the show and then being like, we didn't talk about it.
I just, like...
The one thing that will happen is we will get, I can't believe you didn't talk about, from people who have only listened halfway through. That will happen. Yeah. And does. But, yeah, so he comes running in after he gets the news from Beard, which we don't actually see it delivered. We just see Beard give him a look.
He walks in the next morning and the locker room is just alive with good energy, right? Like it's just jumping off the fucking screen. And it's almost hokey because you're like, really? That much of a turnaround over one night? But maybe here we are.
It was a curse. And it's not lost on me that he breaks the curse and Jamie is gone. Because, no offense, Jamie, but you were a little bit of a curse.
Oh, shit.
And, like, maybe you could come back from that, but
you heard it here first, folks.
That there is, like, I really believe if this crew is going to make it, Jamie being out of the picture is kind of going to happen. Because whether he does an about face overnight, I mean, I don't buy that he would. He has come to some kind of awareness, signified the fact that he shows up and shares with the team and seems a little bit more self-aware. But even if he does become more self-aware, there's a culture that was built in of worshiping him and the team being split in two. And as much as they may have been brought together, that will reassert itself. It's like unavoidable if in a long-term way, unless something really, really dramatic that's kind of unheard of happens. Yeah. Things tend to return to a pattern, unfortunately.
There's a word for that. I forget what you call it. Is it entropy? Or is that the opposite of what I'm thinking?
Entropy is the decay.
Is it?
I think. Yeah. Are you talking about like, oh my God, now I don't know the word. Never mind.
There's no time.
Yeah. But I think that maybe Jamie will come back. It would be really fun if Jamie like asked to come back. But
you mean like asked to rejoin the team?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if they would let him or what. But
you're a humble Jamie like that in your brain?
I can't. That's why I'm like, maybe at some point. But I do think that sometimes a person needs to be taken out of the equation in like a team setting, and as long as that person is there, it won't work. And maybe after they function together really well without him for a while and he gets dropped back in, the structure will have changed enough that he has to change how he behaves to fit into it. But I just don't see that it would have been sustained if he stayed. I kind of feel like this is like a little bit of a blessing, even though it seems like not.
Right. So there's just not enough that's happened so far to affect a real substantial change in his attitude and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get Angry Ted again.
Yeah.
When he gets the news, he's all excited. Beard drops the news we don't see, like you said. And then he just bursts into Rebecca's office, which we've seen him do a bunch of times, by the way, right? He's always busted in her office. But this is different.
Yeah, he comes in and is like, I can't believe you got rid of him. She's like, I thought that's what you wanted. I'm like, bitch, don't.
Right.
And he says, you fought wrong, and then apologizes. I'm trying to be cool, but I'm seeing red. And she says, well, then maybe you should leave before you say something you'll regret. And he kind of like, she says it in a way like, I am sending you away.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a real moment where he's clearly going, yeah, I will say something I'll regret. So yeah. And he starts to walk away, and then he turns back around and says, no, actually, you know what? Here you go. Your biscuits. And he smacks them down on top of whatever agenda she's holding. Right. I hope they're not as good as they usually are. But dang it, they're the best batch yet. I finally nailed the recipe. And I love that because he has just told her he makes them.
Yep.
And she has to sit there and know that she did that to a man who has been baking her fresh cookies every single day.
After she's been like sending Higgins out all across town trying to find like where, and this is how she discovers that he's been doing this for her after she has done this incredibly shitty thing again.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about how much we don't like Jamie and how much sympathy and empathy we have for Rebecca. But she's been doing some really horrible shit and continues to do so. And yet we still kind of are rooting for her.
Yeah, I am. I won't even lie. I am, guys. But I'm rooting for her in a way that's like, no, but I want what's best for you, girl. I really like you. And I think that you're better than this. And I think you know you're better than this.
Yeah.
And I want what's best for you. So just be better because you can be and you know you should be. I can see it on your face, you know? Ugh.
So we're just about almost out of time. Ted goes down, takes Jamie's jersey.
Yeah.
And it's just a really sad, moment. Dani Rojas comes over and just, in an effort to sort of boost him up, says, again, football is life. But somehow it just means so much more in this moment.
That felt like, to me, him going, hey, when I say football is life, it's got its ups and downs, man. Yep. It's not always easy. Sometimes you score a goal. Sometimes you accidentally kick the ball off of the side of the goal post. And sometimes you make a game out of how you accidentally hit the ball off the side of the goal post, and then somebody else does it in the exact same spot, and you feel like really bad about it because you thought you were super good and they're just as good. All kinds of things about this are very applicable to just how life is, but usually about goals. But yeah, that moment with him and Jamie competing in that,
right,
and it turning into just a good-natured game, and Jamie can't even be mad at this guy because the guy is just so excited about playing. He's like a little kid.
Yeah, and he ends up beating because Jamie, like the last one, doesn't hit the post; it goes on the goal. And Dani technically wins, their little thing that they're doing. But it's not about, like, the winning. He's just like, oh, that was so much fun, And just, like, his entire viewpoint, his entire perspective is so different from the way Jamie has been approaching. Jamie has almost been, like, burdened by this gift in a weird way. He carries it like it's this heavy thing, and he acts out like, oh, well, it's a gift and I deserve better and I'm better than everybody else. But it seems heavy on him. And here is someone who apparently is just as talented and seems to be light as a feather,
What I keep thinking of here is there's a amazing TikToker, and she does videos from she plays characters like anxiety and depression and perfectionism, as if she herself is interacting with that being sitting next to her. And there's one where she's with perfectionism and she's sitting down to paint a picture of a cactus with watercolors. And it's her, and she has her stuff, and then perfectionism has their stuff. And she just begins to paint a cactus, and perfectionism leans over and says, wow, you just dove right in there, huh? And she turns to perfectionism and says, well, how is yours going? And perfectionism says, I'm very happy with my tube arrangement, because they have not even started to paint yet, because they have been organizing their paints in a line with Roy G. Biv, and they have been very consumed with figuring that part out. And I felt so attacked watching this video, because if that is not how I get caught up, and the thing is to have fun. You are going to paint because painting is a blast, because literal children see a paper that is blank and are like, well, it won't be. That much.
Wait till I draw the sun in the corner with a smiley face on it, and that little house with the wisp of smoke.
This immediate desire to just create anything, to just fill the space. And then you get old enough that you're stymied completely because it has to be something. Mm-hmm. It has to look a certain way and be worth having spent time on.
Yep.
And sometimes you get to the point where you make something like that because you just do for fun so much that you grow to like have a sixth sense and a really good intuition about how to do that. Mm-hmm. But if you just sit there and stare at the paper and try and plan it out, it's like there was an anecdote that I heard from this book called Atomic Habits, and it was all about how creating a habit is like hugely important. That there was a photographer somebody who taught photography, and he said, I'm assigning this half of the class to submit one perfect photo that you think is the best one you've ever taken. And I want this half of the class to turn in as many photos as possible. And he said that the quality of the work from the people he asked for the most photos versus the ones who had to put everything into one perfect photo, it was night and day. The people who were just going out there practicing and just doing it were having such leaps and bounds of growth. Whereas the people who were so focused on that perfect image were stunted by it, you know? So anyway, all of this to say, that is how life works, but it's just extremely hard and uncomfortable. And I'm not always a fan. So...
All right. Well, we don't have a lot of time for like predictions for next episodes or anything.
Don't. Sorry, guys.
I'm really glad that you're enjoying it. I'm so excited. I'm so happy you still like it. My favorite thing. I'm so happy to be sharing it with you.
Yay! 10-year friend anniversary. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for showing up. Those of you who are becoming $5 patrons, reminder that you're going to be getting emails saying thanks from me. I sent one to you, Rashawn. I don't know if you got it because Rashawn became a patron for reasons I don't understand.
Oh, I become a patron and then I leave and then I come back and then I leave. I don't know. Sometimes a bitch be wanting problems. I want to listen to Suki and I needed to be a patron really to do it.
We just started the second book and there's a Maynard and Miles was not ready for that at all. And it is really funny because he's just like, what is going on? And I'm like...
That was in the books too, that whole story? Oh my God, I wish we had more time to talk.
All right, guys, we will see you next week. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
No, my hands won't be tied down, and I will not lay them down, 'cause I can finally see the truth. So simple but so clear, accepting an ocean's depths were out of reach for me and you. If you're coming up for air, breathing in, you know I'll be there when you first begin. And when everybody's telling us we have no time, we'll prove them wrong again.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.